Hello, friends, and welcome to the Friday conversation. This week I'm here with Kristof Morrow. Kristof, will you give us an introduction, please?
Shakespeare, sure. Shakespeare. My name is Kristof Morrow, and I have Tourette's. I have a cat that's trying to bother me right now. She's very lovely. Sparkles. Shakespeare. I'm an award-winning journalist and photographer, and I've published some books. Epic fantasy, yeah, and a poetry and a kid's book once for fun. Yeah.
Wow, you've been busy.
Yeah.
Notice you list off a few different creative outlets. What is it about being creative that draws you to it, with photography and writing and the different genres of literature?
The pursuit of truth, and its application in real life. Because I think that's what art is meant to do. Sometimes those truths are uncomfortable. I'm willing to impart those too. I just love my work. I think creativity is the most essential part of human existence. I don't know.
Have you always been a creative person, or did that come at a certain point in your life?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I've always been kind of wild and inside my head. Shakespeare. I have Tourette's. I don't know if I mentioned that for the people.
Yeah. Was it which hobby or which creative outlet was the first to kind of draw you in to explore?
You know what? I think Shakespeare. That answer has. There's two answers to that: video games, and writing or books, just in general. Video games and books. Oh gosh, I played so many video games as a kid, and they inform a lot of the visual stuff. I think it's because I think that how much work they put into video games back in the day was just extraordinary, and nowadays it could be more readily generated, but it takes longer, I think, to make games. And for me, I fell in love with The Hobbit when I was a kid. Shakespeare. Just like any sensible person. And I fell in love with epic fantasy because of its complexity, and because you could explore so many things, so many backstories that have relevance to a larger narrative. I think it's lovely.
So The Hobbit drew you in, as it does most people, or most fans of the genre. When did you decide to start writing your own stories, and explore that hobby or that profession?
Shakespeare. I think I was 13 when I began to. It was revealed to me that she's gonna have to go because she's distracting me. Like, she's trying to jump up here every single second. She's like, I'm gonna get there, and she's an old lady. She's 20 years old. So
oh wow,
she's ready to go clubbing.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about it.
They grew up so fast.
Yeah, they really did. Shakespeare. Now I can't remember the question. It was revealed to me through a letter that I had written. It was an assignment that we had to do for class to write a letter to soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan serving there. And I considered it a very solemn task, and I wrote it as best I could, with really no formal training in writing. But my teacher was very, very impressed and read it to every class, and then wanted to publish it in the newspaper and this whole thing. She was really excited for me. I think she was just happy I was good at something, because I was otherwise a terrible student. She's just like, oh my God, he's got this thing. He could do this. It's true. Yeah.
So it was published, your letter?
I have no idea. I've looked for it, but I don't know, because I don't even remember. I know her name was Miss Spree, and I know it was in the 7th grade, but I would have to look through every edition of the paper for a year to figure out when it was. I don't remember when it was. Yeah.
It's a good feeling of big knowledge, though, to have someone excited about something you created.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the first time that actually that anything like that had happened. And actually part of the reason what else informed my confidence that it was true was that like there was a kid named Clint Hackney who hated me.
Hmm.
And even he was impressed. He was like, "Yo, your letter was pretty good, man." It's like, "Oh, hold on now. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I think there's something to this." And then I didn't really start writing though until I was in the Navy,
Hmm.
and I had to process a lot of what was going on there because I was a Navy corpsman. So emotionally, it was very stressful.
Hmm. Did that help with? Did that help relieve stress, or was it a form of therapy for you?
Um, I think it was something. It was actually something akin to video games, the way that you can confide in them.
Hmm.
You know, after a long day's work, you know, you get home
Yeah.
at 5 p.m. First thing you want to do,
Yeah.
first thing you want to do is play video games. It's because it's for me it was really relaxing and it was playful, and I could do anything. I could say anything. It was the best. Yeah, it was more of a distraction.
Hmm. It helps to have those places to go hide. I mean, I guess hide might be the wrong word to use, but just a place to feel like you're safe in and you can
Yeah,
express
a
yourself.
refuge.
Mhm.
Yeah, Shakespeare. Yeah, I wouldn't. I Shakespeare. I didn't really pick up the writing though because until then because I think I didn't have a computer to regularly write on, and someone had given me a laptop as a gift. Who I actually thank in the back of my book, my first book,
Hmm.
because she enabled me to start doing the work that I wanted to do because handwriting it bugs me. It's so annoying to handwrite, and my thoughts come out too quickly. You know, for the yeah.
It is hard to keep up with. I've noticed that too. I've been trying to write more and to, just kind of journal and things like that. And it seems like it's not as fast as typing, of course, but it's it's different.
Yeah. Is that what Shakespeare? What do you journal about, Steve?
Well, I did pick up a few different types of notebooks just to kind of get a feel for what would work. I had to pick up a planner, and then I picked up another notebook, just like a lined notebook that I write down daily tasks and kind of a way to check boxes and say that I did certain things every day, or reminders for myself, or a daily quote or something, just to kind of something somebody said that day or something that's in my head, just to kind of like a record for that day. And I found that I don't use the calendar at all. I don't use a planner. I write everything in the one book. So it's kind of so I spent all that time. It was a blank. I don't have it in the room. It was a blank calendar that I filled out every single day for the year. So I hand wrote every single day, and I spent, I mean, not a ton of time, but I spent some time filling it all in, and then I never used it. Sometimes I use it, but then I forget, and then I just use my other book. So I think the one book system is for me.
I think it's like an exercise though, like filling in the dates like you did. Like even though it's a one-time thing, you're in the background, you're processing plans that you have for all of those days, for the coming days. That's interesting. And you're making them realized in a way.
Yeah. And it feels good to just check boxes and say, like, I finished this, even if it's a mundane task, just to say that I did it. And I do forget. It's nice to go back and find things I forgot that I had to do. So.
And then you chew it.
Yes.
Because it's a page.
Yes. And then I do chew it. Yeah. Doesn't taste too good, but I try. But so tell me about your book, The Second Son.
Oh goodness. Okay. Well, it's 3 storylines, and that I alternate between. That eventually like branch into like 6. I think I'm not sure. This is quite a bit, but it's 3 alternating storylines that it's about empire, slavery, war, civil war. It's all kinds of stuff. It's the spectrum of our experiences and emotions. Whenever I talk to readers about it, they say that they experienced every emotion reading it. I try to be there. There's a lot of funny moments, and there's a lot of heartfelt stuff, and it's just yeah. But it's essentially an allegory for the way that our society is structured right now in terms of our the age. Uh, like, so we have boomers right now retiring and living in a sort of financial paradise. And in the book, there's a paradise where you can live a second life as a plant or a tree or any kind of plant or tree. And only certain people, if you're invited, are you allowed to go there. Everybody else has to live in this world of empire and slavery and pirates and death. It's a Game of Thrones type world. Yeah. And so it's sort of meant to discuss that, the notion that paradise, in that paradise, you're insulated from all the consequences of the outside world. But in truth, they discover pretty quickly that they're not.
Yeah. When did this story, the seed of it, when was it planted for you? Or when did it start to take a life of its own and start writing, and enough for you to start writing it?
Well, I received a phone call from the British Columbian government, Shakespeare. When I was living in Canada, the British Columbian government called me and told me that they couldn't find me a job, that given all the parameters of my condition, all the qualities of my condition, they wouldn't be able to find me work. And the woman, her name was Erin, she told the work counselor, she says, well, maybe you can write. Maybe you should go back to writing. You should do that because you said you like that. And I said, okay. And that was like, and then 10 minutes later, I started writing my first book.
Wow.
No. And I wrote I wrote like 5,000 words the first day. So this is the first one.
5,000 words the first day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun to generate.
Yeah, but what was that process like to start writing a book from the first word?
Well, I knew I wanted the first word to be, and the one of the main characters. There's not a main character. Arguably, people would say it's Moo. His name is Moo, because I thought it would be funny if it were considered a work of literature. Then literature professors would be saying "moo" through the class, and that would amuse me. And then someone wrote me on Instagram to say that their Victorian literature professor uses it to teach Dickens as recommended reading, which is pretty cool. Shakespeare, and also my life's pursuit. I wanted to be in classrooms eventually, and this is one small way to be there. To have gotten there. Anyway, Shakespeare. So the way that I developed it, though, and actually did the writing, came down to the fact that if you've ever heard of Jordan Peele, anyone, if you haven't heard of Jordan, you have, yeah. Jordan Peele from Key and Peele, and he's also the director of Get Out and a bunch of other incredible movies. He said that the first draft is like shoveling sand into the sandbox so that you can make sandcastles with it later. And that's really true. It's a very crude process. It's a very ugly process. In fact, the first draft should be that you don't write prose at all or purple prose, anything. You just write the action and dialogue, and you get in the just the general idea of what you're trying to get across, because you need to generate content, not refine it. Shakespeare. So that's what I did for a year and a half.
Wow.
For the first one. It took me a year to write the second one, which is this. It looks like this. Pretty cool cover.
That was a cool cover.
Yeah. Shakespeare.
So what surprised you most about that journey that you took for writing your first book? What was the biggest surprise for you?
The biggest surprise for me was actually how quickly what you've written explodes and how much it explodes whenever you when you start to. There's lightning out there, thunder. When you start to add prose and stuff to it, and you have to like improve on what you've written expands by about 50%. That's what happened to me. I wrote my first draft was 162,000 words, and for Shakespeare, for the people that don't know, The Hobbit is 98,000. And the Fellowship of the Ring, the Lord of the Rings, is 187, I think. Anyway, so the first draft 162,000. The second, the final draft was 225,000. And I thought I had written a lot, but you start to develop characters and their feelings and experiences on things, and refining your plot, and you realize your book goes from it goes from like, a fairly sensible page count and word count to something really ridiculous, which I learned is like largely a lot of the reason why I couldn't find an agent was because they don't like books over 110,000 words at all. Yeah, they don't like to. There's a woman I follow on Instagram who's quite good at what she does as a content creator, and she said she talks about publishing and all that. She said she interned at a publishing company, and she said the one thing that if a book was too long, was any longer than 110, 120,000, they would just throw it out.
Wow.
They wouldn't even bother reading it. It doesn't matter how good it is. They just. This is extraordinary to me.
That's a lot of fantasy. I mean, how many fantasy books? I think I'd be hard pressed to think of many that are under 110,000.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said. I was like, what in heaven's name would possess you to do that? And a lot of people were speculating. They're like, that's why so many books are the same. No, I don't think that's true. But yeah.
I wonder if they're going for shorter books now that not so let's I guess they're not looking they look for something easy and I don't want to say fast, but easy that doesn't take as much of a time commitment.
Yeah, there's actually subscription-based models that are becoming more popular, like with writers saying, like if you subscribe, you'll get a chapter every so often. And which is really funny because that's how books back in the day were published, in serials, like in serial magazines. So you had like Charles Dickens, Oliver Twist was published like chapter by chapter, whatever, bit by bit, over the period of however long. It was not published just as a book all at once, which is so funny that we've returned back to that. Yeah, it's interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, the book industry has really changed in the past. Seems like it's changed a lot in the past 10 or 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're stressed.
Yeah.
They're stressed. They have to be tastemakers. They're still trying to maintain the notion that they're tastemakers and things like that, and legacy makers. But the problem is that people just aren't that. Most people are not that discerning in the end. Like they see the genre that they want, and they're not gonna say, "Oh, I don't like this writer at all who's self-published." They don't care. Most people do not care. Most people don't care whether or not you're self-published. It's interesting.
Completely agree with you. I think I know a lot of self-published authors, and I think there's a perception that people care, but I don't think most people care. I just think they want a good story, and I don't think they care where it comes from or if it came from a publisher or I don't think they care. I really don't. Like, there's people who are kind of in the loop that know, but I don't think most people care.
Yeah. Yeah. Other writers care. So like you're trying to impress other writers when you say, I got published at HarperCollins, or it's like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. You're not impressing anybody else. Everybody else is like, is that the one with the bird? Which one is that?
Yeah.
I've seen that one. That's pretty cool, I guess. And
yeah. They just, I guess they have the kind of the aspects of the, I don't want to say, I guess you could say tropes that they enjoy, and they go back to the same. If a book is like another book that they like, they'll probably give it a try.
Yeah, I've heard that too. I've heard that. I mean, well, or do you mean the audience, or do you mean the publishing companies?
Oh, audience. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say the publishing companies are like that too. They're like, do you have, like, I've heard them say that, do you have these certain scenes? Agents are like, or whoever is working at these publishing companies, the editors, whatever, they're like, you need a scene just like this, and you need a scene just like this. You need a scene just like this, and it's like, I mean, that's kind of gross to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that cripples creativity. Yeah.
No, I think it does too. And I think that's why I love self-publishing so much, because, well, as a reader, I know that the book I get is what the author is the story the author wanted to tell. And it didn't go through 5 different editors to get just the right scenes or the right characters or the right words or whatever. I know it's what the author wanted, the story that they wanted to tell. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you 100% on that. Yeah. That's what I mean, yeah, but it goes both ways. I think you could get some bad writing.
Yeah.
But that's fine. That's fine.
There's a lot of that.
But again, that's one of those things that only writers really care about. Like how a lot of, not most of most audiences, like you said, just want a good story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't mind typos. I mean, I don't think most people do, really. I know it happens in published book, in the books that have gone through 15 different editors, and it still happens. So it's not really a big deal.
Yeah. The editing process is the most annoying process, is the most annoying part of writing a book, because it's so tedious. It took me forever to figure out how to use a comma correctly.
I still don't know. So you're ahead of me.
Yeah. I've gotten the hang of it now, but the thing is, Shakespeare, it's so funny because I made up a song to joke about the fact that I forget so many commas, and I have to go back and add them in. So comma, 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 comma. Sounds like, anyway, comma chameleon. It's really funny. It's funny to me. It's so stupid. It's so dumb, but it amuses me. So
I think that's the best way to remember things sometimes, or to kind of get things in your head, is to come up with something funny or something that amuses you to remember things.
Yeah. What is it? A mnemonic device?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I only know it because of the Office, actually.
Oh, I've never seen The Office.
If there's that episode where he's like, he does it. Michael Scott does that thing in the meeting, and never mind.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah. It's just one of those I haven't seen yet, but I get a lot of grief for it. But one of these days.
You haven't seen The Office? You're about to get some more grief.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew as soon as it came up that I was going to get some grief. Yeah.
How dare you? That's so great.
Yeah. It's rough. You mentioned you also written a poetry collection, and I love poetry.
It's
cool.
It's
very, it's an underappreciated art form, and it's a beautiful art form. But what made you decide to publish a poetry collection?
Well, the Shakespeare, I actually don't have it because it's only digital.
Oh, okay.
And it's by design for now, because I wanted it to be much longer, and I'm going to keep updating it, because there's like 50. There's like 35 to 40 poems in there now. There's closer to 50 now. But anyway, I will do a paperback. It's called The War for Gentle Love. It comes from a poem I wrote. The last 2 lines are, ancient and forever is the war for gentle love. We must not spare the fascists. We must not free the dove. And the content of all of the poems is really different from each one. Some of them are love poems. Some of them are about the Baba Yaga or the Krampus, the evil Santa. I don't know. Yeah, no, really, it's pretty good. yeah, the Baba Yaga poem is one of my favorites that I've ever written. Uh, and poetry is an extraordinary medium. It's fun to play with, and there's a lot more structure, and it's helpful in that way because you could feel clever pretty easily. I mean, I don't mean me, I just mean anybody that writes poetry can write a quick line and go if they spent enough time on it and do something. And, I like that.
Hmm.
Prose is, yeah.
What is your approach to prose when you sit down, after you have your first draft and you want to fill in the dialogue and the action scenes or the action? What is your approach to that? How would you describe your writing style?
Well, I adore words, and so Shakespeare. For me, every time I see a word, there's something that Hemingway said. He said every time he sees a word, it's like he's seeing it for the first time. And I think I understand what he means by that. And the analogy that I use to describe that sort of phenomenon, or that quality to my understanding of its nature, is like if a woman had a welding business or she was a blacksmith or something, right? And she had a shop and she has a house and she works there for like 50 years and uses a certain set of tools. And then she has a granddaughter who ends up taking up the same profession, looks just like her, does the exact same job in the exact same place, in the exact same shop with the exact same tools. And you think, and they're still different. They're still different. And that's what it feels like when I use with words. Every time I see the word, I see every iteration of its use.
Hmm.
I think about, so for example, like the word quarantine used to not mean anything, like much to people in the West anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But now when you hear quarantine, a lot of people, are reminded of the COVID era, and it's really yeah, or yeah, and it's not some mostly not fond memories. But we used to have no relationship with it in art, but now it's evolved. So for me, writing prose comes down to understanding what our relationship is with each word, and in our collective lexicon, and within the context of like actually in the actual event that I'm writing about, finding it's hard to say, other than what I already said. Uh, but I generally just find a word that inspires an interesting way uh, to write to describe something.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple. I could think of a million examples, but from my own work, but not really from other stuff, because I'm not very well read.
What is your favorite book? Speaking of being well read, I guess other than The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings.
Oh, Oliver Twist.
Hmm.
Was Oliver Twist. Charles Dickens was inspired my style more than any other writer. Even more so than Hemingway, because I used to work as a reporter, and Hemingway was a reporter. Shakespeare. And he's a very lean writer. But Dickens Oliver Twist was his first novel, and he published it. I think it was published when he was 26, at least the first part of it. So he's quite young, or 25. He was 25 or 26. Shakespeare. But I like that he takes 10 words to say something that could be said in two, because there's something about adoring the kind of music of language.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, you can like inducing the same sort of feelings with music with fewer instruments. But why not have an orchestra? You don't need, if you want, the violin by itself is great, but you put the violin with a cello and with a percussion and the other wind instruments, and all the string instruments, and you get something extraordinary.
Hmm.
And that's kind of the way that I feel about it.
Hmm. It is interesting to see the different techniques that are used with descriptions, and if you compare something like McCarthy and Stephen King, there's a big difference in the amount of words that are used to describe things, and it's just it's great that you can go in many different directions on how to present your story and characters.
Yeah, I think I honestly I just I adore words, and I can't imagine. I think that language, uh, the fact that we want to understand people and ourselves be understood, is our greatest virtue,
Hmm.
and that language is truly the only magic we've ever created. Yeah.
There's another author, his name's Joseph Sale, and he said that something very similar, that words are magic. And that's always stuck
Yeah.
with me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I also yeah. I sympathize with that position.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true. And a lot of authors, especially self-published authors, talk about how writing the book and that whole process, which is arduous already, is just the beginning, and then you have to market the book. And I noticed that your book went viral on TikTok. What was that like? Because I always wonder what is that like to see it take
To
off.
go viral?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the book. Well, so Shakespeare is actually quite funny, because it feels like a hug. I think it's because I'm a white guy. Honestly, no, really, no, really. I've heard of I've got other testimonies from other people who are writers, and they're women or people of color, and it is not fun
Hmm.
because they could they'll get a lot of hate.
Really?
Yeah, they'll get a lot of hate, and I presumably from white guys. But for me though, it was almost invariably, like, completely, and it was virtually non-existent, the hate.
Hmm.
I didn't get any kind of yeah, and so it's really really weird. It's really weird when you go viral though, because a lot of people, first of all, you've never seen it. The apps are not built to accommodate that. Like, and you get to take it, like, you can use that platform to do something worthwhile. And luckily, the way that I went viral had to do with my work. Because I have other videos that have like 300,000 views, 200,000 views, and they have it's just about me and my dating life.
Hmm.
And it has nothing to do with my work.
Okay.
Shakespeare. Yeah, and so it's actually just a lot of it feels like a big hug from the world.
So how did it go viral? Like, what was the source?
Yeah, the font of that was Shakespeare. It was somewhat deliberate. The actually going viral was kind of on purpose. It sounds really conceited, but it really did work out that way. So, what I did was I spent the first 3 weeks because I went viral like 3 weeks after I started my TikTok account.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so I spent 3 weeks just talking about myself and Tourette's. So to get the people that followed me, like, engaged with my story as a person. And then I made a video about a woman. The first stranger to read my book is a woman named Sandra, and she's a very lovely person, and we're still friends. She's a young aunt. She likes me to describe her as a young aunt.
Young aunt.
Yes. And she did a review of my first book, and she fell in love with the book. And then I made a video about how much that meant to me. And as a consequence of that video, two more people bought my book. And the next day when I found that out, I ran home from the gym and I was still in my gym clothes, and I was sweating, and I was like, guys, I sold 2 more books. I really hope they like it. I didn't make any money, but that's okay. I don't care because I just hope that they enjoy it. And I went to bed, and then I woke up, and when I woke up, I had sold a bunch of books, like a few hundred,
Wow.
and I made a video about. I saw my ranking on Amazon. I was like number 247 in Epic Fantasy. But the key to this also was I had my book, and the e-version, the e-reader version was I made it free that week for our 5-day period. So that was the first day that it was free. So I had a bunch of people downloading it and actually reading it, and so I was very fortunate to have timed that out in a way so that it would encourage people to get it. I mean, because it's nothing to get a free book. You just click, yeah. And so that video went viral and has like 400 something thousand views. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long did that kind of wave last? Because I always wonder what it's like when things calm down, because you hit that peak of going viral and then things, you're going to have a little bit of a drop off. What was that like, the aftermath of that whole time period?
I feel like it was a couple of weeks.
Oh, really? Wow.
It went on for a couple of weeks. Yeah. Yeah. I remember, and it's even still sometimes I still get some, it trickles in now, but there's videos that I have that, especially, unfortunately, my dating ones like are consistently pretty popular, which is really frustrating and funny. But yeah, and it still gets views. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so a few weeks.
Such a weird, because I think everyone who's promoting something wants to have that kind of moment and wants to kind of have that viral moment and get attention to their work. It's a very like I said, I always wondered what's like after, when things calm down, the aftermath. But
it's a little bit depressing, though. There's a depression period where you realize, oh, no one cares anymore.
Yeah.
But that's not true. The people that have come on board with your story and who you are as a person are somewhat emotionally invested in understanding you and lifting you up. And I have made an tremendous amount of friends from it. I have loads of friends all over the world now. I got books sold in over 50 countries, on all the continents except for Antarctica, of course, but all the other continents. Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Yeah. Including in places where it would be illegal because there's gay love in it.
Oh, okay. Is there? Yeah. Do you know what countries that it's illegal in?
Like Egypt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a reader from Egypt. At least one that I know of because I talked to one, and I asked people to tell me. I made a video about like, tell me what country you're from. I counted 50 countries, 50 something.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
Isle of Man. You believe that? They had for people that don't know, they held that motorcycle race every year there or something. It's super dangerous. Someone dies every year, but it's that's where it's held, the Isle of Man. It's a super small island.
Huh. It's really interesting. Yeah, and I think it's harder with books too, because when you receive a book, when you sit down to read it, it's not instantaneous. It takes a while to read it. So somebody buys the book, and then it takes a while for you to get the feedback because they have to read it. And especially with fantasy, it's typically longer. So it takes people a while to read usually, just because, it's not overnight. It's it must be weird.
It reminds me of an ad I made actually as a consequence of what you were talking about. I did it. So I made an ad that said, it was just a screenshot of my conversation with someone. and it was two messages exchanged. It was uh, you finished the book. How did you enjoy it? Yeah, I read it in 2 days. And all I said was, "Wow." And
Two
that's it.
days.
That's
Wow.
the ad. That's the ad. And it's big. It's 225,000 words is no joke. You got to read a lot to get it done in 2 days. Yeah, I read it in 2 days. Yeah. Yeah. And I have an earnest love for readers and an earnest gratitude, and then people, it resonates with people. I know that because I really do. I really am grateful for everyone that reads it. Like, really grateful. I celebrate every single sale, even to this day.
What is it like reading? I always wonder too. What is it like reading reviews? Because I would be one of those people who sits there and hits the refresh button every 5 seconds waiting for the next review to come in. And I know I could have 1,000 positive reviews, but that one negative review comes in and it would bother me and ruin my day. But what's it like for you? Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know what? I think you and I are kindred in that way. Shakespeare. I got a bunch of reviews right away that were all 5-star reviews, right? It is only recently that I got, and because I do have some 1-star reviews, but they're from people that I got into an argument with on the internet.
Oh,
so they found my books and they gave it 1 star. They didn't buy it, they didn't read it. They just gave it 1 star, because people are petty and they want to destroy your means of supporting yourself, which is really messed up. But yeah, so but I did get an earnest 1-star review, and and it was about the commas. It was about the commas, and that's why I went back and I've edited the book and added it. Oh God, so many commas. There's thousands, not a joke. Thousands. Yeah. Several per page. I want to say several because I don't want to say the real number.
I'm sure it's quite a few. For that many words, I'm sure there's a lot of commas in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of funny. At least your first 1-star review was something that we can laugh about, right? I mean, so it makes it a little bit easier to deal with.
Yeah, they were like I fixed all the errors that they complained about, and it had everything to do with the fact that I didn't know how to make it print correctly.
Oh, like formatting or?
Yeah, the formatting. They didn't like the formatting, and they didn't like the run-on sentences. And I was like, well, did you actually read the story though, or did you just look at the sentence and go, "There's no commas in any of these sentences"? There's not enough commas. Yeah, but so I don't know how much they actually read.
Do you reply to negative or to I guess lukewarm or negative reviews? Do you reply or do you just?
I have never gotten. I've only gotten 5-star reviews and 1-star reviews. I got like 4 or 5 1-star reviews, and that's not true. I have like 2 4-star reviews, so I guess that's a lukewarm. But I've never gotten a 3-star or a 2-star. So the 4 stars, if I'm being honest, one of them doesn't seem like it seems like it was an accident, because they were like, "This book is spectacular, yada yada yada." They're like, "It was a great story, has all this stuff," and then they get 4 stars, and I'm like, that's weird. Okay, it's weird, strangely flattering. All these words are flattering, and then you give 4 stars. And then the other guy, I don't reply, just because that's like poking the bear, like poking the beehive. You don't, if you might, incite an internet riot.
Yeah. Yes.
By going, yeah. So that person that gave me a 1-star review, and I haven't said anything to them, of course. And the advice you get from all the authors out there is they say, don't do that.
Yeah, not a good idea. Yeah. Although I think I would, if I was, yeah, I don't know. I wonder if I was an author and I had a 1-star review and I wanted to know more or get more feedback. I might be curious and see what was it about this that you didn't enjoy or about the characters or whatever. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just not a good idea, like you said. So it's tough.
Oh my gosh. Oh, but from all the 5-star reviews though, I've tracked those people down like the FBI.
Did you?
You know what I'm saying? I went out and no. I found I knew because they had the same username like on TikTok or something. I'd be like, "Hey, you like the book? That's so great!" And then we develop a friendship, and I'd find out who their favorite character is. I would find questions to ask, because I know my work well enough.
Yeah,
Like I had 1,000 questions, locked and loaded.
and I bet they were excited to hear from you too. I mean, to have the author reach out like that is pretty neat. As a reader, I mean, that's pretty neat.
I've never, Shakespeare. I don't think it's ever happened to me except I worked. I started writing an author named Robert William Butler. He won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 1993 for his book "A Good Scent from a Strange Mountain." And I don't know if you've covered him on Page Chewing, but he's very good. He's a very good American writer. He won the F. Scott Fitzgerald Award for Outstanding Achievement in American Literature.
Oh, wow.
I started writing him letters, and he eventually started writing me back. And we had a really pleasant correspondence for a while. And so that's really my only experience with talking to an author.
Huh.
Yeah.
He actually wrote you back, and you were exchanging.
Yeah, we go back and forth. Yeah, we knew each. Yeah, he actually. I bought a first edition because I collect first edition books. I bought a first edition of his book and mailed it to his house, and he signed it he kept it for like weeks. And I was like, what is he doing with my book? He kept it for weeks. And then I found out when I got the book that he had waited until he finished it. He finished his new novel to sign it. So he said, on the day I finished my new novel, I'm happy to sign this for you. And he wrote some other stuff. And he's very generous to do that.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. You, as you can tell from my background, maybe you can tell from my background, I'm also into photography, but what draws you into photography? What is it about that art form that appeals to you?
To be honest with you, Steve, I'm not, I know you're probably a better photographer than I am.
I doubt that.
No. Shakespeare. I won an award for it from the Texas Press Association for a photo I took during Hurricane Harvey. And for me, it's not really that fun. It's not, I had to do it for my work. I had to do it for the job as a reporter. And so I had to take my own photos, and because you don't get like nowadays, there's not like separate. I don't even think I think maybe big papers might have separate, like a photojournalist and a journalist. There's a distinction, but in every small town newspaper, you're going to have just the journalist who does everything, who does the editing too, and does the printing, who sends it to print and all that stuff. Yeah, it's a whole thing. I enjoy. Like with literature, like with prose, I enjoy capturing truth. I think that's a really benign and obvious way to describe that pursuit, right? I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it. I haven't really thought about it. I know a million, really about a dozen people who are better photographers than me, and they've never, and they use their phone.
Yeah.
They don't have a DSLR, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a shame they gave me the camera. You could do so much better than me. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it also depends. Your enjoyment also depends on your subject, because if you're reporting, I would guess, is not always good news or not always pleasant.
Oh yeah.
So we start to associate, negative things or troubling things, and
Mm.
it's only natural for you to kind of want some
Yeah.
distance from that too.
Yeah. No, Shakespeare. The photograph I won for was a woman being rescued by the National Guard from a shelter, that flood shelter,
Hmm.
and being lifted onto a truck.
Wow.
Mm.
What was it like being there? Or I guess what was it like being a reporter or being a journalist or recording these events in person? That must have been quite the experience.
Wow, it was wild. First of all, I knew, like, I wasn't, like, they didn't force me to work. Like, they didn't say, because I was in the hurricane too.
Hmm.
I lived there. In fact, my house got flooded, my apartment rather. And my aunt's business, they had to like literally shut the power off, like,
Hmm.
because there's a whole thing. And the streets were so flooded and had like oil and stuff, and all kinds of pollutants in the water with you and it was like knee high, which isn't that scary relative to a lot of but I guess it depends on how your community responds to it, and the parameters, like rather the characteristics of the storm. For us, the people really came together. Where I lived in Texas, a lot of people have trucks. A lot of people. So there was a lot of trucks driving through the streets, picking people up, going, "Hey, you need a ride down to where you going? Where you headed? You walking there? I'll give you a ride. Where you headed? I'm going down that way." And you jump in the back of their truck, and they would just drive you to the end of the street or whatever, because otherwise you're wading through all this water,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's waist high if it's like on a slope, right? And so the community really came together weirdly. It was really bizarre. Like disaster, really binds people in a sometimes in a healthy way.
Yeah.
As long as their needs are being met, I think that this is gonna be fine. Like if they have food and access to fresh water and stuff like that, and they're gonna be rather gentle with one another.
When that's not there, that's not always not always the case, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can get really ugly.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah, it can turn pretty quickly, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the time always flies, as usual. The time just flies by. But I had a couple of questions before I let you go, and back to Sparkles. Is it Sparkles? Your cat.
Sparkles. Yeah. Sparkles. Yeah. She's ready.
She's ready to go to the bar.
She's jaded. Yeah, she is. She's ready.
Yeah. But one of the questions I like to ask is, do you have a favorite family recipe?
Interesting. I don't. I don't really have much of one of those. So I have my brother. I have some nephews, and a couple of sisters. Like I have my siblings, but that's it, really. So no, not really. But I love cookies and waffles.
Do you make them, or just like to eat them?
No, I go to Waffle House,
okay, and
they make them for me. They make the waffles anyway. The cookies, I'll eat anybody's cookies, but that's the quote. This guy will eat anybody's cookies.
I'll eat anybody's cookies. Do you have a favorite type of cookie that you go for every time?
I thought I used to like. I was a really traditional guy, and I love the chocolate chip cookie, which I do. I adore it. But I tried something. It's like a sugar cookie kind of, but it's something else. I can't remember what they call it. This is why I can't find it anymore, because I don't know what it's called. But it was the best cookie I've ever had. And they look like sugar cookies, but they're not.
Where did you have it?
I had it in Canada.
Oh, in Canada. Okay.
Yeah. So it was It was just it's I've had it before, but it didn't strike me that way so profoundly. But since then, that's the best. That's the best cookies. Oh, the best cookies. I wish I could remember the pralines or something. I don't know.
Huh.
Pecan pralines. I don't know.
Huh. Well, everybody watch out with your cookies.
Yeah.
Guard the cookies.
Oh my god.
So the other question I wanted to ask you is, was there ever a hobby or thing that you thought you would enjoy, but when you tried it, you did not enjoy it?
Yeah, you know what? Photography. Oh my god. You know what though? The problem is that that my like holding the camera up to my eye, and having to squeeze one shut, I would open my eye and it would be blurry for like a half hour.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so that really bugged me. It really annoyed the hell out of me. So I couldn't see for a long time. And any kind of exercise, except for wall climbing. Wall climbing is fun because you can rappel down, and that's the fun part. I feel like I'm in Rainbow Six. You know, Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun to do that.
So rock climbing, fun. Photography, no go, or any other exercise, no go.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, forget it.
Okay.
Forget it. Yeah, all the others can forget it. I don't know. I hate them.
How rock climbing looks like fun, but I know I would fall, and it would be my luck that I would hurt myself.
No, it's amazing. If you haven't done it, you get the little thing attached to your waist, and you got to buy special shoes. And you got to buy the belt thing, the harness.
Mm-hmm.
And you just attach it to the thing and you climb up the wall and then you get to the top. Because I solved a fear of heights a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Doing this. Yeah. And also it's about trusting my environment. I thought it was about developing a trust for my environment. And so, because I had a really bad childhood, pretty terrible. And so, getting to the top and then trusting that the thing was going to let me go down smoothly and safely was a large part of my calculation. And it improved. It improved a little bit my anxiety around stuff in general, in life.
That must have been tough to go on that initial climb, to put the harness on and to actually do that. Must have been really tough to get over that step.
Yeah, it took me a long time to actually climb all the way to the top. It probably took me a couple of months to get there. Steve, it was pretty awful. It was pretty awful to like have that fear and to not go to the top. You don't feel very much. Your dignity, your self-worth takes a hit. But when you do finally do it, it's all restored.
How often do you rock climb these days? Is this something you do regularly?
No, I actually did it. I did it in British Columbia at a rock climbing gym. And it was really fun to do there. However, it was like $80 a month Canadian. So it's like $50 American-ish, roughly. And that sucks. Yeah. So, yeah, Shakespeare. Moving. I haven't done it here in South Carolina though, but I totally would go back and do it again because it's a lot of fun.
It looks like fun, but yeah, one of these days maybe. I have too many hobbies.
Yeah,
yeah. Too many hobbies. But the last question I wanted to ask you, it's something I'd like to ask all of my guests, is what was your first job and what did you learn from that experience? This would be a good one.
Oh, goodness. Okay, well, my first job, official job where I was on the payroll and everything, was at a place that called TR Enterprises. And they built the metal interior of jets. And And so my job was to be like the shop, janitor kind of, which the custodial engineer
There you go.
is what they call it now. Yeah. And so like I swept a lot, and I did some of the easier machining things. But what did I learn? I don't know. I learned, you know what I learned? I learned that adults were really jaded. That's what I learned. I figured out pretty quickly. I was like, man, adults hate their lives later on. It's miserable. It's miserable for them. Shakespeare.
See what you had to look forward to.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn, this is not good. Everyone couldn't wait to get out for the weekend, and I was like, this is like a TV show. I was like, why is it really that bad? It's really, and it is. I was like, because I had to, and I was making like $5.15 an hour. I was making minimum wage federal minimum wage, $5.15 an hour, and I remember working for what felt like 1,000 years, and I get my first paycheck, and it was like, I worked so much that I made $300 something. My first check was $300 something. And I was 15. Totally inappropriate. It was like working that much. Because anyway, I wouldn't. Yeah, that's all I learned.
Would not recommend.
No.
Yeah. You're sort of another thing. I think you realize when you're younger, you think all the adults have it figured out. Like, oh, they know, everyone knows what they're doing. We have no idea. Yeah, no one knows.
Yeah, no. And in fact, like that revelation comes in stages too.
Yeah.
In your 20s, you're like, I think I have it figured out. I'm getting there. I'm doing things. In 30s, you're like, I don't know what is going on. And then I've heard that when you get to your 40s, you just are so resigned to the fact that you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You're just like,
yeah,
I quit. I give up trying to pretend like I know what I want out of life. And you become a lot more comfortable with yourself. And I can't wait for that period, for that Kristof to manifest. That's going to be great. So I don't have to pretend anymore. To like, especially in dating.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, it's tough out there. But thank you so much I know you're really busy. Thank you so much for making time for me to come and laugh and talk about Sparkles going to the club and adults not having a clue what they're doing.
And cookies.
Cookies, yes.
And cookies. Don't forget.
But
I'm going to go have some after this.
But in the meantime, where can people find you and your work? Where can they pick up your work?
Oh, if you go to kristofmorrow.com, that's the easiest way. That has links to all my everything, all my social medias and my Amazon pages where the books are. But yeah, you can look up The Second Son on Amazon's, and you'll see it. It's up there near the top, generally.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for, like I said, I know you're really busy, so thanks for the opportunity to chat.
Thank you, Steve, for having me on Page Chewing. That was really cool.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening, and hope everyone has a great weekend.